The question of the day is, does Tennessee still suck? And the answer is yes.
The Grey Zone.
Resounding yes.
We had to lead in with that. You're listening to The Grey Zone, which I say like that for no apparent reason other than I think it should sound better than it actually does. Much like the Tennessee Volunteers. I'm not going to pour on them too much.
Do it.
No. We'll get to that in a minute.
Do it.
That lovely voice you're hearing, that sultry, salubrious voice you hear, my good buddy Georgia Matt McGahee. What's up, brother?
Not much, man. How are you doing?
Welcome back to King Tut Grill here in Simpsonville.
Absolutely.
Home of the dogs?
I think so.
No, I can't say that because then Clemson fans won't come. We were just staring at that Clemson little. How do you explain that?
It's a nice piece of artwork there.
It's art. It's woodwork. Art. It's gorgeous. Woodwork. It looks kind of. It's a representation of the American flag with the tiger paw on it.
It's got a nice
the
clear
3 national
lacquer
championships.
on it too.
Yeah, it looks terrific.
Looks good.
This is a great place for college football.
Sure is.
Really, really, really great place though for wings. I don't like to use the word best. You know me. I don't like to use the word favorite either.
It's top 3.
Yeah, it's really tough not to say. Just to recommend the wings here outright.
Yeah.
They smoke them and then they grill them, so it's got all the taste.
It's got a good crisp on it.
Yeah, they're big, juicy wings, and it's got that crispy skin, man. We didn't order those now because we're doing a podcast. We had them last time, but now I'm kind of having regrets that I didn't. Anyway, King Tut Grill, it's in Simpsonville. Find it, get here. Come watch games here. Just, chew on some wings. Speaking of football games, hey, Matt.
Hey. Yeah, I'm still alive after the South Carolina game.
Alabama struggle win at home against Tennessee?
Yeah.
Really. A
little bit of a surprise. I mean, we've talked about it at length, and we're not going to get into it too much because we don't want to fight, but the officiating it's disappointing. Like, we're seeing really bad officiating in the SEC right now.
It's kind of nationwide. Let's sort of start there.
No, I know, but I think the SEC is an exception because you expect it to be better because everybody says, the SEC is the best or whatever. And
it has consistently been better. These guys get graded. They literally get reviewed. They get criticized a lot, literally every single week. It's public knowledge, too, but nobody talks about it in the press.
But like we said earlier, my problem is it's affecting the game. And I would rather you not throw the flag if you're in doubt than affect the game. And I understand, like you said before, and wasn't said on the podcast, but if it's Tennessee and Alabama, they hate each other. So you're gonna have to. You almost want to officiate it tougher so they get less chippy. And I get that. But at the same point, I'm also at the point of I love football so much, I want them to play, and I like a little nastiness in the game. Like, I don't want them to physically try to like break legs and things.
So do I.
But I like the nastiness in the game because to me it's Alabama, Tennessee. You expect it to be gross because they don't like each other. It's just like Georgia
but
Tech.
nobody
It's
likes
clean
Alabama.
old-fashioned hate. Georgia, Florida, we hate them.
Right.
It's going to be nasty. It always is. So
a lot of teams get a lot more nastiness, and those teams don't get to complain either because nobody wants to hear it because it's always the elite teams. But I'm with you that I don't want it to be determined. What I want is consistency.
Sure.
So, for example, if they let them play and they let them be more physical, at least you can say that. They were letting Alabama and Tennessee be plenty physical, but throwing flags on things that weren't.
Right.
That may have appeared to be,
That's
but kind of really weren't. And more to the point, like you said, they were determinate. So Alabama, 3rd and long, and they don't convert, but there's a penalty as the guy's getting up from on top of them. I said, they threw the flag, so I'm like, what did I miss? And then they show it in ultra-high def slow motion, and you go, oh, we do that every game. That's not a penalty.
Well, I mean, it's like, what do they want him to do? Just like roll off of him and get up off the ground?
It's a tricky situation, though, right? Well,
yeah, no, like, what do you do, right? So you got to get up.
I don't have a problem with that. And the flag part, here's the rub, because now in the pros you can challenge flags, right?
Sure.
So you would have challenged that, and you probably would have gotten it back, and I don't know how much more determinant that would have been. Alabama missed the field goal on that drive, don't forget. So it's not like it won them any points. May have cost Tennessee, whatever. Tennessee had a game plan. I was impressed how well they executed that game plan, but again, the rest got in the way of what I thought was finally going to be a competitive-looking third Saturday in October. I'm glad it wasn't. Don't get me wrong. Tennessee sucks out loud. But Jeremy Pruitt looks to have them on the right path. Absolutely had a plan for this game. Wasn't allowed to execute it. Real quick, another one of the problems with the refs, Tennessee lines up real quick. They're at, I think it was the second yard line, the goal line, basically. And Jarrett Guantanamo, however you want to say it, the quarterback for Tennessee, they had 3 of them in this game. He lines up, runs outside like a wideout, and the refs, whoa. They kind of stop the gameplay.
And Pruitt was...
And they say, wait. This
understandably
looks... Oh, actually, no, this is legitimate. You can run... Okay, go. And by then...
Alabama knows.
Well, by then everybody knew.
Right,
you can't use that. This was something that you prepared for, clearly.
Yeah.
And they got in the way. It's a tough job. Yeah. I usually celebrate refs. We haven't had great officiating in the championship games in a while, and I'm not trying to make excuses. What I'm trying to say is they do a really good job deliberately to make sure that you don't get conference matchups. So, for example, in the national championship game against Clemson in the ACC and in Alabama in the – I almost said South Carolina. In Alabama in the SEC, you don't get SEC refs. You don't get ACC refs. But you also don't get – like I said before, they get graded every week. You don't get rewarded for those grades. They get a paycheck for being in these games. It should be the best of the best. I'm going to make a weird sort of off-tangent argument here that we're living in a new era of college football with more competition from coast to coast, and we need a little bit more from the refs. Not more calls. We need more refs out there to make those plays so that we don't have these problems in live games as often. It's hard to keep an eye on everything. There's penalties in every game.
Yeah.
And every team gets them. I think right now we've seen more get them in illegitimate ways that I don't like to see at all outright.
So here's my few takes from the Tennessee-Alabama game. Let's see what you think. One, I found it interesting that Maurer still seemed to be a little bit hurt and didn't really play a lot in the game. And I don't know that they should have run him out at all.
They shouldn't. So Matt, he was hurt. Well, he's still concussed.
But what was impressive to me beyond that was how well Tennessee played, even though they didn't really have him for that game, because I thought with him, he makes it better, but then they didn't even really have him, and they still played pretty well against Alabama, despite that they shouldn't. I mean, in our minds.
They were more competitive than it looked like. So for, Tennessee's behind enough that they're having to go for it on 3rd and longs. They're also getting determinate first down penalties, too. It kept going back and forth like that. It got in the way too much. Some of them were legitimate. I'm not trying to say there weren't, and including against Alabama outright, for sure. Right. It just didn't really let us have the kind of football game that I thought we might have been able to get from the way Jeremy Pruitt had a plan and the level of competition. I also thought Alabama's defense did a surprisingly good job. They held Tennessee to 3 points in the second half. Mac Jones is not Tua Tagovailoa, who went out with an injury. We'll get to that in a minute, too. But then he had surgery, I guess, the next morning.
Points.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that was just one of my points about him going out with an injury again. But we'll get to that. But so my next thing, my last point was I think it was really disappointing to see Guarantano not listen to Pruitt when he decided to go rogue on that one play, because that's a touchdown. If he listens to Pruitt, it's a touchdown.
Yeah, so the narrative was, why is Jeremy Pruitt, you can't get that mad at a kid pulling on his face.
Yeah, you can.
Well, sure. I like discipline. That's a personal choice. But then what you didn't get in the game broadcast, I don't think I was listening to the radio. Yeah. You don't get to understand why he did it.
Yeah.
That was going to be a touchdown. If you saw the play from the sky cam,
for sure.
It was a run. The fullback comes around, makes a block. This guy walks in with a lollipop in his mouth, right?
Easy. Yeah.
Instead, Guarantano tries to go for it himself, and I don't know why. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was a total misread. Maybe he just wanted the glory.
Maybe he saw something that.
Don't forget, this is Alabama, and this is a rivalry. Yeah. The ball just popped out.
Yeah.
I mean, it had time. It was
weird.
It was airmail.
Yeah.
And Trayvon Diggs picks it up, runs, and he immediately starts running dead center on the sideline.
I mean, that's a 14-point swing.
That guy is fast.
Dude, he was fast.
And that was 7 downs in the red zone for them too there. Again, 2 penalties that kept them in there.
Again, penalties.
Yeah, well, I don't have a problem with Pruitt giving him discipline.
No.
I think it was the right thing to do. I'm a fan of discipline. I think we need more of it, and you don't get it from...
Eric Russell used to smash his head into Georgia players when they were wearing that helmet, so I'm not, and bleed down his face. I'm not worried about...
As an adult, you're responsible for doing that yourself. The only other place you get it, for most people, is your job, and even then, it's not all the time, and it's certainly not enough. That's my opinion.
It'd be one thing if Pruitt grabbed it violently and was moving his head around. He just kind of tugged on it a little bit to get his attention. It wasn't like he was trying to hurt him. I mean, it's, whatever.
It is what it is.
You can cry about whatever you want, man. I'm over that kind of stuff.
It's the story behind the violence.
So let's get to Tua's injury. What's up there? You have the inside scoop, Alabama guy.
I feel like, in all sincerity, the Tennessee hearts and hopes were broken more than Tua is. First of all, Tua didn't look hurt at all to me. He was walking around just fine.
I saw him walk to that ambulance and like climb in it. I'm like, okay, so is he hurt?
Literally just walking. Walked through the tunnel. Didn't even go into the tent, if I'm aware of. Anyway.
Is Nick Saban playing games? Like, what is this? I don't know.
Let's start from the top. Tua had to have ankle surgery for a high ankle sprain injury. Same injury he had on his other leg last year when playing Georgia, right? In the SEC championship.
I mean, he'd already tweaked it, at Ole Miss or something like that, and then
that was his knee, but sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
High ankle sprain is a unique injury.
Yeah.
What's also unique, and that doesn't really get talked about a lot, is the specific surgery, which is called, what do they call it, a trap line?
No idea.
A tightrope, something like that. It has a very specific name.
We need my physical therapist brother-in-law here.
Sure, I bet he would know it. It's relatively new, but it's not uncommon now at all.
All right.
It's preventative. What it means. So, for example, when they said high ankle sprain, if you know what the surgery is, look, don't forget. I was super into medicine. I started school for medicine.
Right. That's
so
what
this
you're
isn't
in Cincinnati
just
for, right?
Yeah. This isn't just foreign to me. Right. Alabama has a medical school too, so and a very good one, including an entire medical branch in Birmingham. I digress. The surgery that he had after the Georgia injury prevents that injury from happening ever again. So when they said it's high ankle sprain, we kind of all immediately knew it's obviously not the same ankle, which is good because he's a lefty and it was the opposite ankle that he's throwing on.
Right.
Doesn't mean we have any idea how bad it is. Except that he was walking around, Matt.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I feel better already. Our burgers just got here at King Tut. Look, I smell it.
I know.
It's going to be hard to look at.
I know, right?
Can we finish this up? Hurry.
Yeah, let's go. Quick. So
anyway, let's just finish this and we'll take a break. Look, he had surgery to the same thing. So basically, number one, he can never have that injury again. The degree he was able to walk around leads me to believe this was more preventative than anything else. And that's my question, is how far do we take it? Look, we're okay with cryo. We're okay with Amari Rodgers out there running after tearing his ACL 6 months ago. Deshaun Watson was playing on a torn ACL in a championship season. The advances in medicine in the 21st century, particularly with injuries that used to sometimes derail, and still do, derail entire careers, not as often from high ankle sprains, but again, this prevents it from ever happening again.
Isn't it crazy to think that years ago an ACL meant you were done playing football forever? Now it's like, what, 6 months at least?
The only question is time, right?
Yeah.
That's what we all talk about.
It's crazy.
I mean, you've had guys literally tear both of them and still have competitive NFL careers.
I mean, for Georgia, Zamir White's torn both his ACLs, and he's out there running the ball great. I think the harder, I think
I didn't
honestly,
know he tore both. Oh.
Yeah, well, it's harder to me, it's harder to return mentally than it is physically from some of these injuries.
Is it?
I think so.
Let's put it this way. Thank you very much. Is it harder? I agree that it's harder to on a mental state outright. No. But let me finish. I think it's less difficult after you've had an injury, particularly the same injury. In medicine, we call it injury awareness or injury memory. Right? It's fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
Tua's had this before. He had it and was able to compete in the national championship game. Again, not on his throwing ankle either. I don't know what it means. None of us do. I'm not trying to suggest I do. What I'm trying to suggest is when you say the word surgery, you're talking about cutting into somebody somewhere. That takes time to heal.
Right.
It take 2 weeks. It depends on how your body heals. We know better about Tua, how he heals now. I say we, their medical staff and everybody. You have to trust him. When they were playing Deshaun Watson, when he had torn his ACL, the doctors, I sincerely believe, knew what they were doing. And lo and behold, they were right? Now, if he had got hurt, then you blame them, and I get it, but that doesn't necessarily mean they were wrong outright either. If something happens to his ankle, it's going to be real bad, but it's not going to be because of this injury. Again, it's going to be more preventative. I just wonder how far we take that. Stem cells is about to be a big thing. It's very taboo here in America, but when are we going to start sending, say, for example, Trevor Lawrence breaks his neck or something? Why do I always go to the extreme? I don't know. Hear me out. And he flies to, say, Panama, where you can easily, it's not that far away, and you can do really good high-level world-class, not just cryo, but stem cell therapy, which adapts to any cell in the body. It's so unintrusive. It's super. My whole thing is how effective it is. It's the future. We just haven't figured it out here in the States legally yet. We will, but until then, do we start shipping these guys off to Panama just for elective stem cell stuff?
It wouldn't surprise me.
It shouldn't, but how much do we decide when we're going to get upset? How far do you start building out guys' bones and create? Let's say, for example, a guy has the threat of a high ankle sprain. Well, in the off season, gets one in the off season, do you fix both ankles and have surgery for it? I say, why not? I say, These kids can't get paid yet outside of the state of California for another 4 years too. But you can do that stuff, and what's the limit? I guess that's going to depend on your culture and your medical staff and what you have available to you at the universities. Talk about haves and have-nots too, right? Not everybody has one, certainly, not even in the state necessarily. You think Trevor Lawrence would be thrilled to go to Columbia and get surgery at the University of South Carolina? Maybe. I don't know. My guess is he'd go to Panama first. And he's not hurt. I don't mean to suggest Trevor Lawrence is hurt too either, but... All right, you want to take a break and eat some burgers here at King Tut?
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, thanks. We're back with full bellies, full hearts,
full minds,
warm, caring nature here on the Grey Zone podcast. My belly is full of some of the best tasting beef I've ever had. Oh, did I just use the word best? Yeah, I did.
You did.
It was really good.
Stop with the best.
I just had a cheeseburger here at King Tut Grill. No, I had a hamburger, didn't I? Anyway, it doesn't matter. You can get cheese on it, y'all. King Tut Grill in Simpsonville. That hamburger tasted like a steak. It was juicy.
It's very good.
Nice, perfectly pink in the middle. My mouth is still watering.
On the outside, so it's kind of almost got a little crunch on the steak as you go
and
in.
Now I've learned that Matt McGahee doesn't eat red onions.
No.
Okay. Now I know. We were talking about Tua and his injury. I think one of these burgers might heal him up pretty quick.
It could, but I think it's time to move on.
Yeah, we're moving on.
We got a little bit of
Alabama's going to face or host Arkansas at home at another night game, 7 o'clock. They announced the LSU game for 2:30 Central Time in 3 weeks' time, which I think is interesting. We'll see if Tua is back for that or not, but it's not a night game. I think that plays to Alabama's advantage. I think a lot of people don't. They assume that a night game's better. I love the lights. Those lights were incredible. I think it's weird that the lights are going to be red and white for a team that's also red and white, but with Arkansas coming to town.
It's just too bad you had to copy Georgia. It's a shame.
Yeah, we stole that from you, didn't we? Look, pretty soon everybody's going to have those. Clemson, make no mistake, is going to have orange and purple, and it's going to look awesome, and we're all going to freak out. We say we don't want it until we have it. We say you don't want a Heisman, wait till you get one, and it's coming. Well, anyway, I digress. Alabama's going to clean up on Arkansas just because they're bad. Also, the spread is pretty big. I don't know what it is. I don't have it in front of me. Alabama, when they had Mac Jones in, Mac Jones is a game manager quarterback. I would compare him closely to Jake Fromm with way less experience. So they're not going to ask him to do what Georgia's asked Jake Fromm to do. They're going to run the ball a lot, which is what they did after Tua went out against Tennessee at home last week. They finally had some better success with it, too, with Najee Harris and especially with Brian Robinson. That's what Alabama's going to do. That's going to kill clock, which is why I don't think they're necessarily going to cover the spread outright. I don't know what the spread is, but if it's 4 touchdowns, count me out. And in spite of the fact that Auburn's not good, Auburn's pretty good. Arkansas isn't good. So did you want to say anything about that game? I'm ready to move on.
Nah.
Yeah, okay, good. This weekend is not great, really, at all. There's a few good ones.
No, there's some
Next
good ones.
weekend is really bad outside of y'all's game. Do you want to talk about that now?
The Florida game?
I can't believe I made you say Florida after you just ate.
The Georgia-Florida game.
I was just going to call it the world's
Georgia-Florida
largest outdoor
game.
cocktail party.
Yeah, the cocktail party, as a lot of us call it, or Jack's.
I feel like, if I may begin,
Go
that
ahead.
Florida is a very good team, not elite. And how do I say this? Georgia, first of all, still is. I think Florida's a little bit overrated. I don't like to use the word overrated.
They're overconfident right now is what they are.
They're not as nearly fundamentally competitive against Georgia as I think they should be perceived as.
So here's the thing that I think people are going to be surprised. I mean, I think the line opened 7 for Georgia, which is a little bit high, what people would think is high. But these Vegas people, they've watched both teams. They know what they're about. They know that the South Carolina game's a fluke. They know that that's not who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And generally when Georgia drops a game like that, like we have against LSU in the past or Auburn the year before that, we usually respond really strong. And yeah, stop. I don't care.
You don't care?
I don't
They're
care.
playing the national anthem here at King
No,
Tut Grill right now. It's Sweet Home Alabama, y'all.
Most
Roll
overrated
Tide,
song
roll.
ever. Anyway, I mean,
God
give
bless
me
America.
3 steps is so much better. But anyway,
Sure.
so my point though is that Georgia usually comes out of those really gunning, and I think people were disappointed with the Kentucky game because they think that Georgia should have come out and just totally killed Kentucky, and I would argue that they did because we won by 3 scores.
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky did not score. They didn't even get close.
Nobody scored in the first half, by the way.
Right,
Just
yeah.
throwing that
Well,
in there.
I mean, it was pouring down rain, and it did not
ugly.
stop. It just rained and rained and rained. It got
and
worse.
And it messed up the field. That field was not
for
in good
sure.
shape.
Well, and Jake even told the coach, he's just like, listen, I can't grip the ball right now. We just need to run you need to figure out how we're going to run this ball because they know we're going to run it. And, it's a lot harder to run the ball when people just know that's what you're going to do. And when it's raining like that, that's what you expect. So to come out and score 3 touchdowns, to dominate them the way we did in the late third and fourth quarters, just shows me that we are still who we are. It's just a matter of it's perception. It's not reality and what's bothering people. And I think I was looking at a lot of statistics, and Florida is actually not as good as they look statistically. I think they've looked better than they actually are statistically. I mean, LSU, which is not traditionally a run team right now, they're passing on everybody, right? But they ran all over Florida. South Carolina ran all over Florida.
Okay, good point.
They both ran all over Florida.
South Carolina was a messy game too.
Yeah, well, Florida's rush defense is very suspect, and with Georgia having the run game that we have, that doesn't bode well for Florida. And the thing with Florida's offense is they don't run the ball well. They throw the ball well. Well, Georgia has been just locking down everybody's receivers and forcing you to either force the ball or run. Well, Florida can't run very well, and if they can't find someone to throw to, it's going to be a hard game for them to be able to move the ball. That's the way I see it.
They're sort of leaning on their defense.
Well, yeah, and see, Georgia's defense has been suffocating, so I don't think Florida's going to move the ball well. I think Georgia's offense will be able to move the ball well against Florida's defense. And they may not do it early, but they will do it late, like we did last year.
Right. Oh, God, I remember last year. You brought it up. You were panicking last year.
Well,
I told you to relax.
Georgia
handled it.
They were running the game. They were running the ball much better than we were, and then all of a sudden in the third quarter, it just broke open. The dam broke.
When I look at Georgia's fundamentals and how they lost the South Carolina game, I still have them as one of the elites, like it or not.
Well, look, this is how I see the game. Florida's going to be up 13-10 at half. Georgia's going to break it open 27-13 to finish the game.
Okay.
That's the way I see it.
The way that people are reacting to top 4 and top 10 in particular in polls that do not matter at all whatsoever one bit is a little discouraging, and it's been frustrating for me to listen to.
I only care about the final ranking and the playoff rankings. I don't care anything about these polls because they mean nothing.
Before we finish with Florida, I want to say real quick, Florida wins in Columbia in the I was going to say pouring rain. It was just nasty cold rain.
And terrible
our friend,
officiating again.
Irish Davey McKnight was there, a Notre Dame fan watching with a Florida fan.
Weird.
Watching with Lou Vales, Gator Lou.
Weird.
Tied at the half. Look, South Carolina didn't play as good a game as Florida. The refs got in the way, and they weren't great. They weren't even consistent either. Again, it seems to be a problem that's pervasive in the SEC this past weekend in particular, and kind of this season, but it's been that way before. However, Florida was a better team. I think that's fair, outright. But one thing that I could not ignore. So Florida and South Carolina playing at the same time as Clemson on the road at Louisville. Florida gets the ball with about 1:40 left in the first half. It's tied, 10-10 on the road. I believe it's 10-10, but tied on the road. They basically take a knee. They had no plan to score. They had 2 timeouts, which I say wasted because they never used. Tennessee burned 3 timeouts going into half, 3 of them in a row to ice the kicker. Look, it didn't matter. He wasn't going to make that kick anyway because it's Alabama field goals, which is another reason why I don't have a number 1.
Joke's on you, buddy.
But that's your coach.
Yeah.
When you're paid $4 million a year, that's what you're supposed to do.
Well, if you got the timeouts, do them.
I have absolutely no problem with it.
It
In fact,
annoys me as a fan, but
I respect it.
I get it. No, I get it. It annoys me because I'm like, can we kick this and move on?
Your job as a coach is to do your job. That's part of your job.
Yeah.
And to waste them like that, look, the reason why I say that is because Clemson at the same time, just mere minutes later, had a plan. They were up 10-3 on the road at Louisville, so they're down a score. They're up a score, but this game looked marginally competitive. Trevor Lawrence had already thrown 2 interceptions in the red zone. Louisville wasn't exactly moving the ball well, but Clemson had a plan. They had 1.5 minutes. They had, I believe, 2 timeouts and only needed to use 1. They drove the ball down the field. I don't remember how much time was left when Trevor throws it into Justin Ross's hands in the end zone, and at the time, it looked like he kind of floated it up there. Again, there's some argument for it. Maybe he did, but here's my thing. If it's an interception, if it is errant, if somebody else could get to it, or if it got tipped, let's say Justin Ross doesn't catch it. It gets tipped, Louisville intercepts. It does nothing. What it does do, if you do put yourself in that position, is give you another touchdown. That's exactly what they did. I see that with these elite teams. I see that with Alabama, with LSU. I see it certainly with Ohio State when they're in big leads, and I've seen it with Clemson when they have big leads. It's not running up the score. It's having a plan to win. and not paying attention to the scoreboard, but not being completely unaware enough to know that you have time running out. Florida had no plan. For all the hopes that Florida might be, the next great team, I know we disagree with Dan Mullen being that guy, but I'm impressed with what he's done so far in year 3, whatever. It doesn't matter. He doesn't have that X factor. Most teams don't. Watching Clemson on that final drive, in spite of the fact that, it did result in a touchdown, I just thought that was the X factor that you see with elite teams. And I was screaming at Florida, Matt. I'm with you. I'm like, I didn't want them to beat South Carolina more than I just wanted them to compete, to not take a knee going into the half and burn two timeouts. And it took too long to say, but I'm over it. Let's get on.
Did Clemson players know they're not supposed to punch other players?
Oh, sorry, yeah, as a matter of fact. And if he didn't, he took the bus ride home, so now he does
I just could
now.
not believe that. I was like, God.
Clemson has allowed 3 touchdowns this season from their starters on defense. 3. Their defense, right now, I see most of the elite teams just playing elite level defense more consistently than people are talking about, including Clemson's culture. We're mad everybody else isn't talking about it, but we're not talking about it either. Yeah, their backups have allowed some TDs, and some of them come in ways they shouldn't have. And the offense has way more room to improve, for sure, and especially with Trevor and his ceiling that's not even coming close to being hit. But can you name any of the opponents who have scored those 3 touchdowns against Clemson's first-string defense? It's a trick question.
It's a trick question?
The answer is North Carolina. Yeah, that's the only team that scored a touchdown against Clemson starters. Isn't that fascinating?
Are you sure that's true?
Absolutely sure, yeah. That's why it's fun to say.
Pretty sure Tech scored on them in the first game of the season on their offense.
Was it a touchdown against the starters?
Yeah. It wasn't late in the game. They actually scored touchdowns early, so I don't know. It might have been a defensive touchdown. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look. But I'll tell you this
if it's true, give them another one, and then the stat is still pretty close.
It's still good.
Clemson's defense is leading the team we're not talking about. We're talking about how upset we are, and it's silly.
Well, and I'll tell you another fun stat. Georgia's the only team in the country that has not allowed a rushing touchdown on defense yet. Only team.
Fascinating.
It's pretty cool. It's a good stat.
It's pretty good. I'll take what I can get. I love defense.
Right?
Nobody talks about it.
Who's Clemson got this week, by the way?
Clemson has Boston College, again, 7 p.m. So once again, I don't say biggest rivals, but you might as well, are playing at the same time. So a lot of the frustration I have with the way people have responded to these polls, which are closer than ever, by the way, is that you're not actually watching. You're upset that people aren't paying you enough attention, but you're not actually watching these games enough to have such an outrage. Like Ohio State, for example. How much have you actually watched? Were you watching that game Friday night, for example, on the road at Northwestern? If not, I understand it. But don't get furious about being right behind them by, 6 votes, including having first place votes, and a big drop off to number 5.
So we do have a couple good games, though, this week.
Let's finish that one up real quick, because Boston College is not one of them. Boston College's defense is still okay. They're always, to me, pretty good, but they play way better at home. They're out their quarterback again this year. He's injured, so he's not playing. And when I say their quarterback, I mean they really only have the one. Clemson is still kind of now out for blood again. They're trying to prove everybody wrong. Dabo's pissed.
They've got a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah, and at some point you've got to allow for style points. Look, don't forget, Ohio State won the first playoff. Why? Because they got in because of style points. 59-0 against Wisconsin was a big deal, and it was big enough. That's my point.
Yeah,
Clemson doesn't have to be big enough.
Because a lot of people weren't sure they'd get in, and then they did that, and it was like, oh, yeah, they got to be in.
We've had enough teams lose, but I have no problem being bigger than big enough. You don't just have to get the W. It's more than that, and you have to be aware of that, too. But they are. I don't know what the spread is on this one. Do you have it there? Whatever it is, take it.
It is no. Well,
because of the lack of wanting to run the ball as much, the clock control. Boston College.
Clemson by 34.
Yeah. Ooh, 34.
It doesn't surprise me.
It doesn't, and I'm taking it. I say Clemson wins by, say, 38 or 40. I think
that might actually be safe.
I hate to say that against Boston College, and they will kill some clock just because of their nature, but golly, that's a lot of points. But Clemson is sincerely that good. They have a plan to do it, and they're one of those teams who I might expect to execute it on purpose. So go Tigers.
So Wisconsin, Ohio State. This is going to be interesting.
Yes.
Ohio State is a 14.5-point favorite.
I've got Ohio State number 1 still. If I had to pick,
I get it.
I just think they're playing so much more competitive. Look, again, Northwestern, they beat them 52-3 on the road. Who's Northwestern? They're not good. I get it. I'm not sure if they had been held to 3 against anybody else. And Ohio State, again, consistently holding these teams to nothing or very few points. Wisconsin is the only other team to hold teams to fewer. And they lost the worst loss of the year, Wisconsin.
However, do they respond
Illinois
from
last
that
week.
and play really well? They might. You never know.
They're a great football team that now nobody's really paying attention to because they lost. This is going to be a great game, but they're going to say the same thing because I think Ohio State's really that good.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm not betting either way on it because I think it could go either way.
I think Ohio State is good enough to win by 14.5 for sure. So I'm taking 17, 21, something like that. It's a great question. I hope it's competitive. Let's be real clear. I want to make this real clear for me. Ohio State is complete on special teams, offense, and defense. Wisconsin hasn't often been that way at all. We've seen them be really great on defense, which they are again this year, but maybe not special teams and almost certainly not offense. They are complete this year. They are good on offense. They're very good on offense. Yeah, they struggled a little bit against Michigan State at the beginning, and so did Ohio State. But again, flush out the first quarter. That's kind of a rule for me. Learn how these matchups work, figure out your game plan in the game, and then make it happen. They've done it. They've done it better than, honestly, in all sincerity, better than anybody else. Enough for me to put them at 1 and kind of put everybody at 2, A, B, and C right now. I've got Oklahoma in 5th and Penn State behind them. I don't trust James Franklin. And now I'm on a tangent. What else you got?
So we got Auburn at LSU. LSU by 10.5.
Yeah, give me all that.
Yeah, I'll take
I think that one makes even less sense.
I think Auburn scores on LSU a good bit, just like
why?
Because Vandy scored 38 points. If Vandy can do that, then Auburn can do it.
Good point.
My second point is that I think LSU is going to score a lot of points on Auburn because it's passing, and Auburn's weak against pass. They're strong against the run. So I expect a lot of points from LSU against Auburn.
I do too. I think LSU is basically going to score it well in spite of the fact that Auburn's defense is really good. Their defensive line is terrific. They're very physical, but that does not matter when you deliberately get rid of the ball as fast as Clemson did last year and as fast as LSU is doing this year with Joe Burrow. It's not all on him. It's a very big part of this scheme. It's going to negate that Auburn defense. I don't think Auburn's going to be able to score well enough. Bo Nix is going to turn the ball over again because that's LSU's strength is the secondary.
It's our 3:30 CBS game. It's at LSU. I just like the Tigers in their own environment there. I just think that they're going to – I say Tigers like Auburn's not Tigers, but they're not though, man. They're like War Eagle, Plainsmen. I don't know what they are. But anyway, moving along from them because neither of us like them.
Damn dirty Barn Rats pick up another loss to a top 3 team.
Let's talk about Notre Dame, Michigan real quick.
Please.
So
I love this rivalry. I love it. Love it. Deal with it, y'all.
I
Go
think
Irish.
this is going to be low scoring. I really do. I think both defenses are pretty good. I think that I think Michigan's got a better defense than people think, and I think that Notre Dame does as well. And I think Notre Dame wins this. I think, let's see, the spread it's actually even money right now. So
go Irish.
I would take the Irish in that.
It's at Ann Arbor, correct?
Yeah.
I still think the Irish is one of the better, if not one of the group of best teams in the country. I'd put them on the outside edge of the top 10, for example, rather than truly elite. But this is one of the best teams Brian Kelly's ever had. Their defense is an exclamation mark.
Listen, with Florida being in the top 10, Notre Dame's definitely in the top 10.
This is a rivalry game too, Matt. And Michigan has been turning the ball over left and right. If they can clean up some of that, they have a chance. Against Notre Dame, I just don't expect that to happen.
And Notre Dame is actually really good at getting takeaways, so that's going to really benefit them.
Book is not sensational. He's a great game manager. I think that's just going to play to their advantage. They do have some big dudes who can make plays. Yards after catch is great for them.
Book can make some throws, though, man.
Yeah,
he made some
I'm not saying
tight,
he can't.
He put him in some tight windows against Georgia that was really impressive. So
I'm saying against defense, they're going to have to require that. And I'm not saying – I think that's just going to determine how badly they beat Michigan. Let's put it that way. And you said even give me an absolute break.
Yeah, Notre Dame's going to win.
Notre Dame.
For sure.
I wouldn't call Michigan a dumpster fire. I'm not sure how many losses to Notre Dame or Ohio State.
Is Jim Harbaugh going to go to the Falcons?
I don't really care. I don't know well enough to know what he's thinking.
I think he's going to jump ship personally, but anyway.
I think Michigan deserves a better coach, period. Losing to Notre Dame at home isn't going to change that again this year probably, but whatever. Moving on.
But they
go
lose to Ohio
Irish.
State.
In fact, that's a lock for me. Yeah, I'm taking the Irish all day on that one.
I think it's fair.
Which just triggered my Irish fans.
I have no confidence in Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, so yeah, I take the Irish too.
I just think the Irish is a better team. simple as that.
For sure.
Yeah, much better. Sure. Who's next?
That's the rest of the games I think are worth
really?
watching. Yeah.
Okay, we got UCF at Temple.
Don't care.
I care. It's the AAC. We talk a lot. Look, Clemson has more wins over Power 5. I have a real problem with that using just as an analytical perspective because of how good the AAC is outright. Look, Boise State was undefeated until this weekend. A tough loss against BYU, right? Not easy, but BYU was playing some pretty
people that you don't expect them to beat.
Right, with good fundamental football. And some trickeration for sure. They did some, which we used to expect more from Boise State. That was kind of the irony. Or poetic justice. I'm not even sure which is correct. But Boise State is better than most teams in some leagues right now that are in Power 5. Look, Rutgers isn't going to turn anybody's heads. Right? Yeah, they finally got a win this weekend, and including against a Big Ten opponent. Right. Can you name who it was? No, because it doesn't matter, because you don't care. Why? Because it's Rutgers. UCF at Temple is fascinating to me. Right? And Cincinnati and Memphis, I'm trying to remember who Memphis plays, but Memphis is one of the better teams outright, and certainly in the AAC. I can't convince anybody to watch, but this should be a good game because it's in Philadelphia. I think UCF's a better team. UCF obviously decimated a little bit again by injury this year, but another great team from the AAC this weekend is Houston. I think that's another lock for me. But nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to watch it. That's okay. But don't tell me to watch Wofford, okay? I'm sorry?
That Houston SMU game should be good.
I think it should be great. I'm picking Houston, though.
I take SMU.
SMU's still undefeated, is that right?
I believe so.
Okay. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, they're 7-0.
Okay.
No, I take them. They're a much better team.
Baylor? Are they on a bye week finally?
It appears so.
I brought it up because they're undefeated. Matt Rule, to me, is the next Dabo. I just think he's a great coach nobody's talking about. There's been some talk that I've heard about him going pro. I don't follow it enough, like that he might be the next great pro head coach. He's such a great leader, and what I've seen him do when he was at Temple, he just seems like a better fit for college. Just seems to fit his personality, his game style, his thinking, his way of teaching. I hope he doesn't go pro just because I think he's such a great leader. Baylor remains undefeated. They beat Oklahoma State on the road, which nobody expected but me. Mostly, I'm biased towards Matt Rule for sure, but he's got those guys playing tough.
I hate when college coaches go to pro, man. It's just totally a different world.
Well,
I don't
if
like
they're
it.
a college coach, right? If you define them by that.
Yeah,
and I think Matt Rule might be that guy. So I'm hopeful he stays.
It's one thing from when an NFL coach steps down to college, but it's another thing when college goes to NFL. It's a totally different world.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it would be more disappointing, especially from the elite ones, right? Anyway, moving on. Whatever Baylor's doing this weekend, I'm just going to keep picking them until they lose. And I'm fine with that. Go Bears. Matt Rule, love you, brother. Great coach. Let's see. South Carolina off. Is that right?
I think so.
Georgia, you're off, obviously.
Yeah.
Anyway. Oh, well. What other games we got this week?
Let's see if there's anything else worth talking about. No,
Please.
South Carolina's playing Tennessee this week.
Oh.
I don't really
Both of
watch
these
that.
teams, how do I put this? They have gotten better week to week to week. Neither one of them I would call super competitive. Either one of them could arguably beat
I think Tennessee wins.
Most teams any given Saturday.
I think Tennessee wins. I really do.
I absolutely think Tennessee wins. Where's this game?
At Tennessee. I think they win. Only because they've been so close to doing well.
Screw it. I think Tennessee loses because they're losers. That's what they do. I know Tennessee hate week was last week, but they scared me a little bit.
I got a feeling about it, man. I mean, South Carolina's playing really well, but
I've not slept this well this week because that Tennessee game didn't end until 12:30. My blood pressure didn't come down until about 2:30.
They could be emotionally
I
messed up
enjoyed
from
that
your
game so much. That return by Trevon Diggs when Tennessee was about to score and come within 8 points. So basically a single score they were about to be with Alabama on the road. I hear you. Trevon Diggs grabs it and runs. I can't remember. That was just pure happiness to see it happen to that guy on that team for the defense. Again, I love seeing defense do it, but against Tennessee when they were so hopeful.
Such a dagger.
It would be different if somebody got injured real bad and the only person who got hurt is Tua. I don't feel bad for it. I don't think it's that bad, so I'm not going to worry about it. All right, I know you got to go. Brother, thank you for being here on short notice again. I really appreciate it. I'm happy with your dogs. I'm excited that you have a bye week to rest up before crushing Florida at the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Do your picks this week on iONGreenville.net. If you forgot, that's okay, because I'm doing bad enough. If you've noticed, I picked fewer games this week to put on the podcast because I feel bad that I've had some people were like, Gray, listen, dude, I thought you said this was the lock of the week. I'm like, I actually hadn't said that before on the podcast until today.
Notre Dame's
but
lock
yeah,
of the week.
I've given you some pretty good confidence. Yeah, I have no problem with that. LSU, way more lock of the week. Anyway, Alabama, whatever. Moving on. Alabama's a lock not to cover. That's where I got them. Clemson, lock to cover. I'm fine. FET Greenville Magazine. So, real quick, had a really great article published about the Grey Zone, about local upstate podcasts in the Greenville Journal last week. To be mentioned with guys like Phil Yanov and Tech After 5 and that sort of stuff. Jake Irwin and his podcast is sort of a network of them. The bearded ones. It was really fascinating. All this talk this week has been the AP, the Associated Press, and how bad they are. Literally, the Greenville Journal is kind of FET's competition. I don't treat it that way. I think this town is built on cooperation, but this was such a perfect definition of that. I was so much more excited to see it. And it was a cover story, too. So, the Grey Zone featured in the Greenville Journal.
I'll have to check
I
that
love
out.
it. Thank you, Vince. Just really cool to see. There's not much to it, but it was just, it was kind of fascinating to be compared, talked about with these people who I definitely look up to. Look, podcast radio is still sacred to me, so it was really cool. It was a really cool moment for me. But if you want an even better moment, obviously, go to fetgreenville.com. Read this week's episode, FETE. I'm in there. Udo the Clown's in there. You don't want to know about that, but you better read about it. The Grey Zone podcast is in there. Everything you need to know. GVL Beer, GVL Arts, GVL Music, GVL Media. It's all there. Thank you, Jay. Thank you again to Warner here at King Tut Grill in Simpsonville. I'm still full. I'm still happy. That burger was awesome. You feeling good?
Yep, feeling
I
great.
can't believe how close you get to live here.
I know,
I don't
right?
feel bad if you lose every other game for the Bulldogs this year. You can just come here and drown in your sorrows, right? That's not going to happen. I don't want it to happen. And I still feel like Georgia controls its own destiny in a way.
Do.
Yep.
They do.
So that's all I'm going to say about that. You got anything else you want to say this week?
I hate the Gators.
I hate Tennessee.
There we go.
I hate the Gators.
I don't like either one, really. So
That's good enough for me.
it's good.
All right, y'all. Roll Tide. Go Dogs. Go Tigers. Who am I leaving out?
Go Cox.
Go Cox. Go Irish. Hail State. We are. That's good enough. Go Bears.
OH.
Oh, wait. I know. Thanks, Matt. You're the best.
Not red, not blue, not white, not green, just gray. Just gray.